Hey everyone, it's Julie. On this episode, I talk with Larry Williams with Unlock Health. He heads up senior living digital strategy. It is so critically important to have a relationship with a marketing digital partner, whether it's in-house or external. That's a true partnership. It truly listens and cares and understands your desired outcomes, and then communicates regularly, analyzes results, recommends strategy, recommends, implements to continue and improve. Larry's does that and knows senior living so well. He is truly one of the nicest men you'll ever meet. I'm so grateful he took time on the Grow Your Occupancy podcast. Hope you enjoy. Hello, welcome to the Grow Your Occupancy Podcast. I am Julie Podewitz, and today I'm welcoming Larry Williams to the show. Larry, hello.
Hello, Julie. Thanks for having me on today.
Larry Williams Larry Williams, let me finish, is a Senior Director of Marketing Strategy and Growth at Unlock Health. And we're going to talk all about, shocking here, but senior living marketing. But first, Larry, it's good to see you. And you and I, in this big, beautiful country we live in, we happen to live very near each other, right?
Really close, probably 25 minutes away from one another.
And how long? I mean, we need to go to a different state to see each other.
It's a shame. So we live so close, and you live in Franklin. I love Franklin. Every time people come to Nashville, they're like, "What do locals do?" I said, "We don't hang out in downtown Nashville. We don't go to Broadway." My wife, my family, we like going to Franklin. And so it's a shame that when we connect, it's always in Florida, it's in California, it's in other places, not Tennessee. So we need to make it we really need to be intentional about connecting for coffee going forward.
100%, 100%. One of the nicest and brightest faces and minds in senior living. So I'm grateful that you spent some time with me today, and I'm grateful we see each other in different states. But yes, we are going to plan that coffee and that opportunity because we do live close. And we both have daughters. You have two,
Yes.
I have one, and your
Yes.
are teenagers, right?
They are teenagers,
Well,
13 and 15.
13 and 15. Okay. Well, ours is 22, so you've got, it's always fun. It's
It's
always fun.
always fun, and I love learning from you. And it just sounds like your daughter's, really has some exciting career opportunities. And so, just cheering her on from afar as you keep me up to date. And again, I just try to, regardless if it's senior living sales or just family stuff. Julie, you're somebody I always just, it's always nice to get that insight from. So, thank you for that.
Gosh, that means thank you. Your daughters are so thriving and successful and love what they do. I love what I do. I love Grow Your Occupancy. I love senior living, active adult. But being a parent is my greatest joy. So I
Yeah,
really
for sure.
appreciate that. And thank you always for asking about Ava. That's my favorite topic. My second favorite topic is senior living marketing.
Yes.
So, as you lead senior living strategy, right, at Unlock Health.
Yes. I'd unlike health, correct.
And so let's talk about that. What are older adults, as you're working strategy for clients, what are they looking for? What are they searching for initially?
Yeah, when they're searching, it just depends on what's going on, right? And so I always try to break things down to smaller levels, and it's easy to paint with a broad brush, but ultimately, it's really what are they looking for, and who's doing the research. If it's independent living, that's going to be drastically different from memory care, and then you have the assisted living, in there as well. So it really depends if it's the adult child decision maker, if it's the potential resident themselves. it really changes what those searches are. I always say that, when we think about that journey, it's no different than how we search for things. Like typically we go to Google for all answers, right? So if I'm looking for a new pair of shoes, I go to Google. If I'm looking for a tech device, I go to Google. And it helps give us that definitive place to start that search. And I think that's one area that continues to evolve rapidly in senior living, and it's a good opportunity for us to continue to convey trust going forward. So I guess I kind of ran with that question, which is, what are they searching for? It just depends on what type of living is needed.
Now, you talked about, let's break that down. So they're the adult children, the influencer, and the
Correct.
prospect themselves. And of course, the baby boomers, we've been talking
Yes.
about this for 20 years. The active adult space is growing. The opportunity in the active adult, retirement and active adult is different than retirement living
Yes.
independent. We'll make that
Yes.
clear. But so break it down. So let's talk about the prospect themselves.
Mm,
What,
yeah.
yeah, what are they looking, or what do they search for or look for? What seems to be important?
So if it's the prospect themselves, that they really want that continuation of lifestyle. They're looking to have a place, a community where they can continue to thrive and live their best life. And so looking for how to manage that transition efficiently, and that makes sense financially, and providing that guide work is so important. And so it's really understanding, those search terms, so we can really take them down that journey, and they feel comfortable with those next steps and connecting with the right, say, community that really meets those needs.
What are they searching for? Like a search term.
Okay. So it's always what I always tell clients. I think I went a little too far out, so I apologize for that. You're looking for
Oh,
search terms.
well, no,
It's
I'm just curious. Like, are they looking
Yeah.
for retire or like
Mm.
retirement
You
living
get
or?
Yeah, it's that we have to be aware of those search terms, right?
Yeah,
And so we have to think about the way we look at this within the industry. It's easy for us to start using the terminology that's used within the industry, but
right,
those searching might not be looking for those same search terms, right? So
right.
they're looking to start the process. It might be 55 plus communities. It could be independent housing, or senior living apartments. So there's that broad brush of what they're searching, and I think that's what's important for us as marketing teams, is to understand that and work our way back and understand, like, on the data, okay, in this area, this is what groups are searching for. They're looking for independent living, but they're not saying independent living.
Right.
And so I think that's depends on the location. It depends on what group that is. They're going to search different terms, but they're just looking for housing for that 55 plus, or they're looking for senior living communities.
Have you, and that's a very good point. What is comfortable or colloquial for within the industry, it may not be the term or
Yeah.
the terms for someone who's like, I'm looking for senior living apartments when they're truly looking for an active adult community. Very
Yes.
much like, we don't know the internal terms, for other businesses. So be thinking of what is a customer going to use those terms and track it. It's not a set it
Yeah.
and leave it alone. It's like, look, what
We have
are
to
they?
keep watching it. Yeah. And I'm a big fan of, let the data drive all decisions. And that's
Yeah.
where we really need to look at those local geos and understand what search terms are actually being used, and not go back to what we're comfortable with or what they should be searching. And something else we have to think about, if it is the prospect themselves, I think the data says that people tend to see themselves as 7 years younger than what they really are.
Mm.
And so we have to think about that, and have that consideration as they're looking for these search terms. And so where they might think, oh, it's just more about that retirement living and not senior living. And so it's just, some of those guideposts I'd say that we need to look into. But when it comes down to it, it's really on the geography side. Like, we need to understand that with the geos, and really focus on that, competing at that local level.
So I'm kind of smiling. So, people see, generally speaking, we each see ourselves as 7 years younger than we truly are. Are you seeing those, yeah, on social media where they interview young people and say, what year are you born when you're considered old? And these
Yes.
kids are saying, 1985.
Yeah, exactly. And it's tough. It's a tough pill to swallow. I'll in this summer I'll be in my mid 40s. I still feel like I'm in my 20s, but then I see the gray hair on my face. I'm like, that's not the truth at all. But that's no different than groups, these prospects who are
Right.
looking to really, they think of it more of downsizing. They think of it
Sure.
more like they're not looking at senior living. They look at more of that transition. I think that's something we can help with that because ultimately you're looking to help them with that transition, help them be around community and provide those, I'd say those next steps.
Do you see, for the terms you're talking about, the geographic, and I understand you're talking about the local, right? Because
Yes,
this is a
yes.
hyper
The
local
near
business,
me. Yeah.
right, near me. Across the country, because I know you serve clients across the country, do you see any differences in the prospects or the influencers, either search terms, what they're looking for, geographically within the US?
Yeah, so I think community by community, when I say that, I'm not speaking about the senior living community. There might be some small changes in language, right? But the other thing we have to think about is not just the terminology, but how they're getting the news, how they're getting the information. So we're a big fan of digital marketing. We think that's, we're a big believer in performance marketing and driving, leads through whether it's SEO, SEM, paid social. But what surprises me in a lot of local communities, man, it's radio might work really well, or or it might be direct mail. And so what I would say is sometimes the language might shift a little bit depending on that region, but also keep in mind it also will change in terms of what that lead gen really looks like and what's really performing in that area.
Got it. Got it. It's so important
Yeah,
to have. I was just on the phone with a client who was talking about this very thing,
yeah,
that a change was made because that's what she was looking for. Looking
yeah,
for a strategy, a partner in strategy, not like, oh, here's your results from your paid campaign. It's okay, we're analyzing this and we're proposing, okay, recommendations moving
mm,
forward. That's what they're paying for is your
yeah.
expertise around, okay, this is working. Let's make a shift here. Let's try this. And you routinely meet, right? Like on a regular basis
For
and review
sure.
this. Yeah.
So, and I'll say this, I was very cautious not to overstate on the language because I don't want to define in certain areas, like specifically what they're looking for. But what I would say is, regardless if you're speaking with a marketing agency or what phase you're in, run those audits. Get that agency to run an audit because they can look at that local market and look at competitors to see where they're really, let's say, those keywords that are working really well, and then you can really shift your content to really reflect those changes because obviously if it's working really well you really want to outcompete them in that market using that language, and that's where I think that's a big difference is that we have the metrics, we have the data, we just need to lean in and really understand what's really performing in those markets and what type of content that really wins.
What, let's talk about advice. Like,
Okay.
what advice uh, do you give to your clients? And let's start with like priorities.
Mm,
So if we're starting with a limited budget,
yeah,
and what, in your opinion, and I know there's there isn't one set rule, but generally speaking, what is, a priority, right, for an
yeah.
operator, an owner, as far as from a digital marketing perspective? And then conversely, what do you see as like, well, shift funds from this area and
Sure.
because it's not as maybe not as beneficial.
When I think about the priority, I think about the census levels first and foremost, because we have to get those up to earn the right to get into other marketing activations. And so that's what I always start with really, how are these communities performing? Are there any trouble spots that you're seeing in areas that you really need to see more growth? Because ultimately we will have conversations, and many times groups will say, hey, we think we need to refresh our website. And I'll ask what their census level, and if they're in the 70s or 80s, then it's that changes the conversation. And I'll say, look, we can help you with website. Happy to do that. We can create a high performing website, but you're 7, 8, 9 months from really seeing those results, because it takes Google about 7 to 8 months to index those changes. So be prepared for that lull until that picks up. Typically, what I tell groups is, let's start with more of that paid media and really focus on that high intent traffic and really connect and showcase your community so you can get more leads coming in while we look at the bigger picture marketing efforts. And so that's always my advice, is to really start with that point and start small. Because once you have the paid media guidance with what content's working and what strategies are working, then you can leverage that into SEO and really guide that future content based on what you've learned through SEM.
So for those listening, kind of just stepping into this, or maybe this isn't their area of concentration or expertise, but they're responsible for it. When you say paid media, what do you mean? I think people understand sort of that
Sure.
pay per click as it we used to.
Yeah.
What else does it include? Or
Yeah, it's a good question. And so you think about that paid search. And so when you look at Google, you search something, you see at the top says sponsored ads. That's that paid media. You're going to get to the top of that the search engine results page, right? And so you want to get there. And I would also highlight that with this, you want to make sure that you don't just drive to your website. If somebody clicks on it, you want to drive to a high converting landing pages. That's the difference that you're really leaning on when it comes to like a paid search. But beyond paid search, you have paid social. And I think social continues to play a really big part in all things paid media, because that's what we're looking at. Like for me, before I go to bed, I'll look at Instagram. When I wake up, I kind of scan through a few things. You get into someone's algorithm, it's a game changer. And so I continue to see paid social continue to make an impact. That could be Facebook, it could be Instagram, it could be TikTok. It's just really where your clients are really on their devices a lot. But then you also have programmatic. Go ahead. You had a question. I'm
no,
ready for it.
no. So programmatic. What's programmatic?
Programmatic is the display ads. And
Yeah.
so when you're on a website and you see an advertisement, it's just kind of in that background. That's programmatic. And so if you think of more of that brand awareness placement to really keep that brand front and center, that's where you want to leverage programmatic. And so if you look at that, take a step back and say, hey, I'm really looking to grow my census level. I want higher intent leads. I want to really grow that volume and quality. Our recommendations always start with search, then expand to social, and then programmatic. But you can't boil the ocean. You can't do it all at once, but really take the right steps to make sure like you're getting the most bang for your buck. And so going back to your question about where do advise people if they have a limited budget, start small and focus where you can make the biggest impact. And if it's on census level, that's where we would advise that.
Reinforces, Larry, to me, what you're saying, how important it is to partner, literally, like have say, a trusted partner who is working with you, right? It's not just, okay, this I'm paying this X a month and I'm not sure what's really happening, and I get an occasional report.
Yeah.
You take the time to understand and what's happening now, what are the outcomes, what is the initial goal, right? And like you said,
Yeah.
like I would agree, clients come to us and say, we need a new website. We want a new website. Or they may say we would like some sales training.
Hmm.
And sales training is never a bad thing, but when really do more of a deep dive, yes, sure, but perhaps based on
Hmm.
whatever's happening, this might give you a bigger bump initially, or here's a
Yeah,
recommendation, right? And a website is great, but perhaps take the funds and do this. Someone had called and asked me about paid ads on Netflix or something like that.
sure.
And again, they is let's take a look at how much that would be. What has been your experience there? What about taking those funds and perhaps putting them here
Yeah.
and tracking it? Gosh, that's the important thing too.
Oh, for sure, because
Knowing,
you can see what's winning, what's working, and what's
yes,
not. And it goes back
yeah,
to what you said. I think right now it's really easy to have a shotgun approach in marketing. Everybody wants to like, not everybody. It's so easy to, yeah, let's have paid ads. Let's focus on our website. Oh, we need to, really invest more into direct mail. Oh, we need to do this. We need to work with some of our third party friends. There's just so much. And so I'm a big proponent of really using more of that rifle instead of the shotgun. We have the data. And going back to your question about the search terms and the content that we suggest, we can do audits and see what's working and what's not. Let's start there. Let's look at the geos. Let's see what's the best fit in terms of the client profile or the prospect profile and start in those zip codes. Let's really get really focused there and work our way out. And so if you can get the leads coming in, you earn the right to then go into the website and then you earn the right to you continue to grow on that. But it all goes back to the data that we have access to that we can leverage.
it sounds self-serving, but I'm going to say this anyway.
Let's hear it.
The how critically important it is for marketing such as you and sales, to work in conjunction, because a marketing a group like your agency, as people refer,
Sure.
uh, are turned often because they're held responsible for sales and move-ins. When a sales and move-ins is a sales issue. So the marketing, driving the leads, and so yeah, knowing how many leads come to your website, that lovely. Okay, great. But what is happening? Like, what is the conversion? What, the MQL, the SQL? Then once it's an SQL, what's happening with what literally is tracking? So we could track from new lead all the way through, and the alignment between marketing and sales is the winning combination uh, have you responsible for the entire picture isn't fair, right?
Correct. Yes.
You're responsible for your piece of it, and that sales and marketing are two different things.
Yes. And
Yeah.
and it made me think about like the importance of working together and
Yeah.
leveraging each other for better results.
Mhm.
I think about on the marketing side, it's not just leads for leads. I think that's a misconception. So, well, how many leads? Okay, well, yeah, that's great. But are they quality leads? And I think
Exactly.
that's something else we need to think about. Are you delivering quality leads? Are they the right fit, the right profile? And not all leads are created equal. And I think that's something I'd always recommend people talk to their marketing agency about, which is the quality of the lead. How are we improving that? But once you get that lead, it doesn't stop. Marketing can't say, all right, did my job, we're out, appreciate it. You have to make sure that that lead, if they're calling in or if it's a form fill, that someone is being responsive. And so I think about some of the mystery shops, right? And then making sure that people are having a great experience in that quote unquote handoff. And then the sales team can take that and run with it at that point. But once the salesperson is able to take that and have that conversation, they can provide more information to the marketing team of really what's working and what's not. And I
Right.
think that's how you continue to improve that process.
Mhm.
But one thing that I've learned by hosting, the podcast that for Unlike Health for Senior Living, the Move-In Senior Living Marketing, is that it's a full like say lifespan, because then at that point the salespeople need to make sure that they're delivering that experience and then getting operations involved. And so if we can really pull in this full journey through move-in and the resident experience, that's a winning formula. But
Yeah,
again,
it is.
it starts with these building blocks that will set everybody else for success.
Process. Yeah,
Process, yeah.
establishing the process and following it and having accountability for you, whatever piece is owned by you.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
yeah,
And
and then
taking
for
ownership, like
whatever
you said, it's
changes
just
that we're
taking
doing.
ownership.
Yeah.
One thing that continues to stay front and center in my mind is making sure that no step of this is just a checkbox. Like
Mm.
I did it, I'm done. Next person. No, it can't be. You have to be very intentional with each step and always looking to improve. And if it ever feels like it's more of a checkbox, like I followed up, I called that person, or we just ran a paid media ad, that's how the potential resident or their family members will see that. And so we really need to invest in every step and make sure that, all those dots are connected.
Larry, appreciate you coming on the podcast. Is anything like this, as we're recording this, it's the spring, beautiful spring in Middle Tennessee
Beautiful
here.
spring, yes.
Beautiful spring, moving in, through 2026. But what are you kind of forecasting, seeing, in the market? Any changes or any?
Yeah, I would say what stands out to me right now is authenticity wins the day. And so you don't have to have an overly polished marketing message. It just needs to be authentically you. It needs to be authentically your community. And so, there's continues to be a push to make sure that you're getting away from stock photos, use resident testimonials, use, videos of your staff, really lean into the authenticity of your community. And really, yes, you want to focus on really outshining at that local level, but really highlight your community and what does living look like there, and then connect on a personal level. So again, just tying those pieces, but it needs to be authentic. And I think that's where in the rise of AI, we see so much inauthenticity. We see so
Mm,
much fakeness. People want reality. People want authenticity. We crave that as humans. And I would say yes, work on the leverage the data for better marketing strategies, for better marketing practices. But when it's all said and done, you need to tell the story of your community and its people.
perfectly said, Larry. All right, well, I'm going to hold you to the coffee.
It's on me. I owe you. I've been in many of your sessions. I've learned so much from you, Julie. I always go back to that first session that I got to see you present in. It was in Georgia. And I was like, man, I took 2 pages of notes. And so I owe you coffee just because you've taught me so much.
Oh, I'm getting an extra large then.
You for sure get the venti. What's
Oh,
is there a step over that? I think
yeah.
Trinity or something. My kids are always asking for it. I'm like, no, we don't need that much caffeine.
I think I'm going to go one up. I'm going to go one up if
I
there is.
love it.
Yeah. All right. Well, Larry,
Absolutely.
it's
Thank you, Julie.
so good to see you and talk to you, at least virtually from Middle Tennessee. Thank you all for listening to the Grow Your Occupancy podcast. Like, share, subscribe so others can learn from experts like Larry. What a wonderful, wonderful community you all serve. And we thank you from the bottom of our heart. Until next time, I'm Julie Podewitz.